Hello everyone and welcome to the final round of the 2022 American Monoposto Championship. My name is Simon and today we're going to Fontana for the final race of the season. After a weird, bizarre, controversial and somewhat confusing end to the championship battle between Alexander Knežević and Kevin Peters, we can confirm that Kevin Peters is not going to compete in today's race, which means that Alexander Knežević, the Bosnian veteran, is the 2022 American Monoposto Champion, regardless of what is going to happen throughout the race. Therefore, we took the opportunity to talk to the new American Monoposto Champion. Second win in a row for Alexander Knežević. Knežević wins his third race this season. Wonderful. After the tough championship fight between Kevin Peters and Alexander Knežević, it's the tenured veteran representing Odilo who came out with the title. So, Alexander Knežević, first of all, congratulations, you're officially the American Monoposto Champion 2022. How does that feel?
Thank you very much. I still can't believe it, to be honest. It hasn't sunk in yet. It's my first title, as you probably know, and so somewhere deep inside I'm happy, but it still needs to come out really, and I think that it will come out over the few next days and weeks.
Of course, we used the opportunity to ask the new American Monoposto Champion whether he considered his teammate to be a potential threat for the title throughout the season, or whether you looked at him more through the lens of him being a supportive teammate, more so than a championship rival.
He was a threat for sure. I mean, if he didn't do that mistake in Laguna Seca, he would be in the mix.
And Victor bends it! Victor loses his front wing, and that might just spell the end to his championship dreams.
Even after Daytona, he could still have won it. But yeah, I mean, I closed every chance for him in San Francisco, and he's a fast driver, but in the end, he did put not enough in it, to be honest. If he trained a little bit more, he would be in a bigger threat for me and for Kevin, of course.
Speaking of Peters, we asked Kneza how he felt about the fact that his main championship rival quit the series after the controversial Daytona race.
Kevin had different reasons, some that I think that are okay, and some that I can't really understand. For most of the season, the first 3 races, he was running away with the championship, but after that, until Daytona, and even with Daytona, he finished every race behind me, so he lost points. And for me personally, the race, like it finished on track, I was very happy because I made a mistake very early in the race, and he got frustrated from my point of view, and he wanted to quit even before the race. The situation in Daytona just confirmed it for him. I would have been happier if he continued, and I would have beaten him on track. That's also what he says. He was sure of it because he was struggling also with the schedule every 2 weeks. But for me, in my heart, I won the championship at Daytona on track. The results don't tell that story, but in the end, I mean, I have, I think, 35 points advantage, so I can live with that.
Considering the controversial way both Daytona and the American Monoposto Championship ended, it's important to note that after the end of the American Monoposto Championship 2022, Alexander Knežević is going to be a new administrator for the ORSL, which is why we asked him about the future of the project, including next year's American Monoposto Championship.
I think that we had a very good basis for this season, even though it was coming from nowhere, from nothing, and we managed to build something in a few months. We had over 20 drivers for some races. Now towards the end it was a little bit less. Maybe that had something to do with Daytona and the whole fallout there, but I think that it isn't hard to build on that. We just need to get some consistency also in the stewarding and have clear guidelines. There was some rules I can remember from Montreal and like that, where we had some minimum laps and stuff like that. We look into all of that, and I have a lot of experience, in administration of racing leagues, and with the help of yourself, Michael, and all other guys, even including Kevin, is a part of that as well. I think that we won't have a problem there, to build on that and to make it better. Now there is a pause for the AMC. There will be the VMC free season World Tour as kind of
off-season championship, maybe.
Yeah, off-season championship. I mean, it will make for a gradual change. We will get some other guys in that maybe are more interested in kind of that racing, and I think the AMC season will be somewhere early in 23 then, and we will just build on those things, and I'm very optimistic that we'll have more fun, and the guys and gals will have fun too.
After the amount of drivers for the San Francisco race was somewhat disappointing, the same has to be said for today's Fontana race, though that doesn't mean that the racing around the superspeedway can't be entertaining or engaging, especially considering Knežević and Smith are on the front row behind them Aaron Curtis and Bartosz Krpeta, Matthew Oboyski and P6, and behind them Max Heyman, who missed qualifying and is therefore going to be in a position where he's going to try his best to overtake everybody ahead of him to get his first victory in online sim racing. We expect people to either be on a 2-stop or maybe a 3-stop strategy. From what we heard, TireWare might play a big strategic role today, but let's see what happens when the talking stops and the racing starts. The green flag drops. Aaron Smith on your right, Alexander Knežević on your left. Curtis still in third. Behind them, Krpeta, Oboyski and Heyman fighting. Smith still in the lead out of Knežević and Curtis. Everybody filing through. And again, this is what I talked about earlier. It can be incredibly entertaining to watch these cars go around the super speedway at Fontana. Certainly a track that some people have been looking forward to throughout the entire season, seeing as this was the track where the American Monoposto Championship cars were tested for the very first time when the league was conceptualized in early 2022. And in the beginning, it's a bit of a four-way fight between Smith, Curtis, Knežević, and as you can see, Bartosz Krpeta, who might actually have a good shout at finishing on the podium today, considering the low attendance for this race. Not meant to discredit his potential achievement today, but it certainly gives him a better opportunity to actually finish on the podium for once. Behind him, Heyman trying to avoid both Ben Waldinger and Matthew Oboyski. And look at that brilliant pack racing between these four in front. Again, Heyman trying to catch up. We can already tell you that Ben Waldinger wouldn't stay in the race for too long after a collision with the barrier. He would have received a drive-through penalty for a pit lane infringement. However, instead, he was essentially asked to retire by the race director, aka myself. And therefore, he wasn't in a position to finish the race. Meanwhile, Curtis fighting with Bartosz Krpeta. Max Heyman behind them. Now, as you can see, Smith is pushing hard, losing the lead to Alexander Knežević, trying to regain him, making a little mistake. Curtis and Krpeta following through, saying, "Thank you very much, good sir, I'll take that." But again, incredibly tight battle at the front. Multiple position changes, for example, for some part of the race. Aaron Curtis was actually in the lead ahead of Alexander Knežević. And I suspect that if there are any alliances in this race, I suspect there is one between Max Heyman and Alexander Knežević, considering they're part of the Torino car group, essentially one big umbrella of multiple sim racing teams and groups. Therefore, that's where I expect some corporation to take part in this race. Wouldn't surprise me too much as well, considering that Knežević doesn't really have to push that hard anymore, if that makes sense. He doesn't have to win the race. He doesn't even have to finish the race, considering he is the inaugural American Monoposto Champion. So he's definitely in a position where he could, quote-unquote, let Max Heyman win the race if Heyman's in a position to catch up to the queue in front. Bartosz Krpeta also in the mix. Again, if he can keep it on track, if he can avoid making big mistakes, he might be in with a good shout today. But that's only if he can avoid the kind of mistakes that he made throughout the season. Whether it was at the season opener in Long Beach, his spin in Interlagos, or his crash in San Francisco, there is definitely a lot of potential within Bartosz Krpeta. We could definitely tell from what he showed us this year, especially pace-wise, but he's seemingly still not consistent enough to put it all together. After Heyman caught up to the queue, it was seemingly rather easy for him to overtake both Curtis and Bartosz Krpeta. Wojski not playing any big role in the race today, though he would have a collision with Bartosz Krpeta throughout the race, which would cause Bartosz Krpeta to receive 2 penalty points after the race. And we could definitely tell before the first pit stop that Aaron Smith was increasing his gap to Alexander Knežević and the rest of the group still left in this race. Therefore, it seems as if Aaron Smith has somewhat of a pace advantage, but then again, I ask myself whether that's because he's pushing the tires more than, for example, Knežević or Heyman. Again, until the first pit stop, this group would stay together, as you can see it right now with Curtis, Knežević, Heyman, and Krpeta fighting, though Krpeta still seems a bit erratic to me from what we can see right here. Almost losing it completely, though he's able to continue. And because of mistakes like that, Krpeta would lose more and more time to the queue ahead and therefore essentially drop out of the fight for a podium. Lap 33 and Aaron Smith is in for his very first pit stop. Again, we expect 2 or 3 stops to happen, though we're unsure how many times everybody is going to pit. Bartosz Krpeta would pit on the exact same lap, though as you can see here, he would cross the white apron line with 2 full tires and would therefore receive a drive-through penalty by the race director. Shortly after that, Aaron Curtis went into the pits and they would come out behind Aaron Smith after their pit stop. Shortly after that, Knežević went into the pits as well, which means that now Max Heyman is in the lead of the race. After everybody had pitted, Aaron Smith was still in the lead. Behind him, Curtis in second, Knežević in third, Heyman in fourth, and Bartosz Krpeta in fifth, though he would not finish the race, therefore he'd only receive half points, seeing as he did not complete 75% of the race distance. And until the second pit stop, it will be a story of 2 groups. It will be Aaron Smith essentially racing against himself, pushing at the front, and it will be Curtis, Knežević, and Heyman fighting for P2, P3, and P4. And we would see a trend develop where Aaron Curtis would essentially build a similar gap to Knežević and Heyman as we'd seen before with Aaron Smith. Though again, I'm not sure how hard Curtis is pushing their car compared to Knežević and Heyman. So Curtis leads the race after Smith's second pit stop, Heyman in second, Knežević in third. And on lap 68, Curtis would go for their second pit stop. Knežević now in the lead ahead of Heyman. And Aaron Smith would come out ahead of Curtis, meaning that the MPM driver is now in third place. Knežević coming in for a second time. Therefore, Max Heyman is now in the lead. Though both would still come out behind both Aaron Smith and Aaron Curtis. Therefore, the standings are now Smith in first, Curtis in second, Knežević in third, and Heyman in fourth. Though after their second pit stop, Curtis would drop back massively, lose loads of time compared to Knežević and Heyman, and is therefore now fighting for their first podium in the American Monoposto Championship. So far, we've seen some pretty solid performances from Curtis this season, though they've never actually been able to finish on the podium. And once again, we can see positions changing. Knežević now ahead of Curtis. And if everybody's on a 2-stop strategy, not only is this the fight for P2, P3, and P4, but it would also mean that Aaron Smith is on for his first victory in the American Monoposto Championship. He already had a great shot last time out in San Francisco until he binned it, essentially. But if he doesn't need to pit one more time, he is most likely going to win the final round of the championship. Heyman currently in second, Knežević in third, Curtis still in fourth. And then suddenly, Aaron Smith has to pit for a third time. It seems as if tire wear was too high for the MPM driver with the number 42, which means that not only does it look as if he's not going to win a race this season, but also it looks as if maybe, seeing as Aaron Curtis was just able to overtake both Knežević and Heyman on the back straight, that Aaron Curtis might win their first race in the American Monoposto Championship if they don't have to pit one more time. Now, to go the overtake one more time, it happened right at the same moment that Aaron Smith went into the pits. And now the question is, A, can Aaron Curtis defend against the veteran who's also now the inaugural American Monoposto Champion and against Max Heyman? And B, do they have to pit one more time? Though the first question might not be as easy to answer considering that both Knežević and Heyman just overtook the driver with the number 46. Though I'm not sure who's going to win this. It might be Knežević, it might be Heyman, or it might be Aaron Curtis. A couple of minutes to go in this race, and it's still unsure if we're going to see a debutant win or not. Curtis once again in second. As you can see already, Aaron Smith is about to be lapped by the leading pack. Look at Curtis. Curtis in the lead once again. Again, this all comes down to strategy, tire wear, and if anybody in front has to pit one more time. We're not sure about the tire wear on Knež's car and Heyman's car. But this could all just come down to experience in sim racing, which both Heyman and Knežević have a lot of, I can tell you. Knežević still ahead of Heyman. Though Heyman takes the charge. Though Heyman takes P1. Curtis still in third. Smith still in fourth. Bit of a gap now developing between Knežević and Curtis. So I'm not sure if Curtis has to save tires and therefore is dropping back because of it. And as we can see right here, Aaron Curtis has to pit for a third time and is therefore dropping out of the battle not only for P1 but also for a podium in general, because that means that Aaron Smith is going to be able to overtake the driver with the number 46 once again and is therefore going to finish his final race this season on the podium. And this also means that for the final round of the championship, we have another new winner because finally, after loads of trials, tribulations, and bad luck, Max Heyman is about to win his first race, not only in the American Monoposto Championship, but also in online sim racing. Knežević finishes an incredibly strong season in second place. He's the American Monoposto Champion. Odilo's the team champion. Aaron Smith finishes in third. What could have been if he had started the season from race 1? Curtis finishes in a strong fourth. And let's have a look at the final results, not only for this race, but also for the American Monoposto Championship 2022. So again, Max Heyman wins ahead of Alexander Knežević, Smith in third, Curtis in fourth. Korpeta, Obojski, and Waldinger don't receive full points, seeing as they didn't complete 75% of the race distance. Again, definitely disappointing for the American Monoposto Championship to only finish with 7 drivers for their final event. But nonetheless, let's have a look at the final standings for both the drivers and teams championship. And as we can see, Alexander Knežević is the American Monoposto Champion with 145 points ahead of Kevin Peters in second, Jan Winter in third. Max Heyman finishes the season in fourth, 2 points ahead of his teammate Gonzalez Cativo. Aaron Smith finishes in sixth. Again, what could have been if he'd started right from the get-go? Early in seventh, Curtis in eighth, Gaggiano in ninth, Core in 10th, Obojski in 11th with that bizarre podium in Daytona. Korpeta, Peckley, Fekkeler, Kassar, Dittmar, Waldinger, Ide, Cerne, and Kyer rounding out the top 20. Behind them, Clark, Cole, Rustemeyer, Bentenrieder, Michel, Huluhan, Friedrich, Kronsky, Sopanen, Zamborski, Hamilton, Campos, Rule, and Hamill. 34 drivers that are listed as being competitors in this year's American Monoposto Championship. As for the team's championship, Odilo wins the title with 251 points ahead of MPM in second, Kostek in third, Streamline in fourth, SCMM in fifth ahead of Turismo Autosport, DMS Falcon Sim Racing, Super Gazelle Racing, the Bravo Racing Team, the Competitive Schleppek Team, Cole Motorsports, and the RW. And with that being said, you can all look forward to the official American Monoposto Championship season review, during which we're going to talk to multiple drivers, including the winner of today's race, Max Heyman. And over the next coming weeks, you'll also receive more info on the next championship run by the ORSL, the WMSC3 World Tour. But until then, thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. It's been an incredible journey so far. We've had ups, we've had downs, we've had some bizarre instances, but nonetheless, I'm incredibly grateful to be part of this project, and all that's left to say is thank you for watching and keep racing.